This is the first case of its kind, one that makes you question everything you thought you knew about reality. A case that reveals there is a parallel world out there, and people actually live in it. But make no mistake, these aren't ordinary people. Their mindset, their motives, their very makeup is something out of a film, and even in fiction, no writer would dare suggest this really happened, but it did, right here in Egypt. All you'll be asking is, how can this kind of human being, this kind of story, exist around world leaders, right under our noses in the hidden layers of our world? Because the world you're about to enter, the one behind these stories, isn't a myth. It's the full, terrifying truth. In 1998, specifically in the month of October, a report reached the police station in the Aguza district. A disturbing complaint about a foul odour seeping from an apartment in a quiet building nestled deep in the Mohandesin area. The smell had been lingering for more than a day. Neighbours couldn't take it anymore. Responding quickly, officers rushed to the scene. They reached the apartment. The door was locked. No signs of forced entry. Everything looked normal from the outside. But the moment they stepped in, the stench grew stronger. Overwhelming, suffocating, rotten. Each step pulled them further into the unknown, like walking into the belly of something dead. The smell led them directly to the bedroom. Heavy, deliberate pause. Silence. They reached the door, hand trembling. They pushed it open. What they saw inside would haunt them forever. And there they stood in front of a shocking scene. The body of a man in his 50s, completely naked and decomposing. His flesh was peeling away, stabbed multiple times. His hands and feet were bound with electrical wire. Tight, cutting into bone. It was disturbing, almost surreal. The police immediately called in the forensic team to try to understand what had happened. The investigators noticed there were no signs of forced entry at the doors or windows, suggesting that the killer was likely someone who regularly visited the victim. As they searched the apartment, they found traces of drugs on a hookah in the living room, along with evidence of various narcotics scattered in multiple areas throughout the apartment. It was clear something darker had been happening behind those walls. And yet, the original report claimed that the man living here was alone, though some people were said to visit him from time to time. Still, something about the apartment felt off. Not a mess, not abandoned, but unsettling in its own way. There was a story here, and not just any story. A big one. After the crime scene was examined and all fingerprints were lifted, the body was sent to the coroner for autopsy. From the initial examination, it became clear that the victim had been electrocuted, using the same wire he'd been tied with. There were also signs of blunt force trauma to the head, likely caused by a wooden stick or club, based on the pattern of the wounds. But what truly ended his life were the stab wounds to his neck. There were more than 3 stab wounds in the exact same area of the neck. The slashing appeared to have been done with a large sharp object, most likely a cleaver. But the most shocking revelation came next. The man had been sexually assaulted before he died. And according to the forensic report, this wasn't the first time such activity had occurred. There was clear evidence that the victim had a history of same-sex encounters. Toxicology results also revealed an extremely high level of narcotics in his bloodstream at the time of death. At the same time, the police began gathering information about the victim's identity and social circle. And that's when the case began to take a turn into the parallel world. The victim's name was Hamdi Kandil. He had previously worked in a security agency, but was dismissed a long time ago due to misconduct. Very few people knew the truth. He had told everyone he resigned voluntarily. At the time of the murder, he was working as a lawyer, running a small legal consultancy office in downtown Cairo. But according to the information gathered, he didn't have any real clients. It was as if the office was just a cover, a front for an entirely different life. And so began the search into the victim's personal connections and who might have had a reason to do this. As investigators spoke with neighbours and friends of Hamdi, they discovered that a married couple had been living with him in the same apartment. Their names were Taher and Amal. But ever since the crime was discovered, both of them had completely vanished. Even more suspicious, the police found that Hamdi's apartment keys and car keys were missing, and there was no trace of any money inside the apartment. The initial suspicion was that someone had cleaned up the scene after committing the murder and then disappeared.